Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be going over all things body armor. As I'm recording this video, there has been nationwide legislation proposed to ban or regulate, or both, sales of body armor to civilians. So I want to go over it because my inbox and Facebook, I'm literally getting over 1,000 messages a day since that's been proposed. So I'm trying to get this out there, get the information out to everybody. It should answer 99% of folks' questions if you watch this video. Maybe a little bit long, I apologize for that, but there's a lot of info to go over. Additionally, apologizing, my neighbor's cutting his grass. If that's in the microphone, I apologize as well. But we're trying to get this in before it gets too hot out here in Carolina. And we're going to be going over, again, pretty much everything. There's always one-offs that I might not touch on, but we're going to try to get to all of it. First off, we'll just walk down my list that I made here before walking out here, sort of a checklist. What materials are you looking for? So here on the left here, we have some softer materials. So the main three that you're going to see are Xylon, polyethylene, and then aramid fibers. Aramid fibers is like Kevlar. That's what most people know that as. The thing I would say about that is that never get Xylon. If you have Xylon armor, return it, refund it, throw it in the trash, whatever the case may be. Xylon armor has serious issues in terms of degradation with both heat and being rolled up and folded and all sorts of things. Xylon armor, bad news, do not use it. However, it's still out there, so I'm just saying that just so you guys know that. Both polyethylene and aramid fibers are essentially soft and woven together. They work a little bit differently in how they actually stop bullets, and their weight's a little bit different as well, but realistically both of those work really well, and they're going to do their job for many, many years, and you don't have to worry about those, so those are good to go. In terms of hard armor, you're generally going to see steel plates, which we'll get into here in just a second, ceramic plates, or a hybrid. So there's some out there that are actually steel and ceramic hybrids. There's some out there that are ceramic and polyethylene hybrids. They're out there in all different configurations. Neither one's really better or worse. They just have different properties. So with that, we'll go into the levels of protection and then kind of get into the two types of plates here in a second. Before we jump into the steel versus ceramic debate, we want to go over what the actual NIJ protection levels are. So you're generally going to see three categories, right? So you're going to see the soft armor, which is going to give you protection of somewhere between NIJ 2 and 3 alpha. Back in the 90s, like when I went through the police academy, what we were using, and probably a lot of departments still do, is like level 2. However, the reason for that was cost and bulk. Now with modern production materials, that's not really the case. And you know, in 2019, as I'm recording this, you can get level 3 that weighs the same and generally costs the same. Oftentimes it's cheaper than level 2. So the times have sort of changed on that. However, level 2 is definitely still a category that the NIJ tests for and approves. But just be aware that basically level 2 is not going to stop some of your hotter rounds like 357 Magnum, 44 Magnum, really hot, plus P plus, 9mm, maybe some 357 SIGs. The level 3 alpha generally will, as well as most shotgun loads out there that you're going to run into. That's 3 alpha I'm referring to. Level 3 is a hard armor plate. And generally you're going to see steel or polyethylene with those two. And level 4 is generally going to be a hybrid, either ceramic polyethylene, ceramic steel, or you're going to see just a straight steel plate in terms of level 4. So we'll walk through those here real quick. I have most of them around me if I can think about it. So these are going to come in different forms. You can get level 3 actual plate inserts for plate carriers. This one right here is just for like police armor, and this goes in a carrier. And what's nice about these is that it's nice and soft, it's lightweight. You can wrap them around your body, so that way you get a little bit more coverage with this, because it contours to your body and can actually get more coverage, especially on the sides that plates generally don't give. However, protection-wise, this is a polyethylene piece of armor. And this one here, in terms of lasting, let's talk about that, because people always ask about that. NIJ will rate plates for anywhere, generally speaking, between 5 to 10 years. However, if you're not leaving them out in the sun all day long, leaving them in a hot car, and that's with polyethylene and ceramic plates I'm referencing now, they'll last way longer than that. Steel plates, like for some reason, the NIJ still rates them for like 10 years, but trust me, steel plates will last decades just fine. So in terms of degradation, for most folks in a practical use, it's not really an issue. That said, they're just overcautious because of the nature of the certification that they're giving. Obviously, it can cost lives if they're wrong, so they're just trying to be cautious on that. But level 3 alpha is generally malleable, looks like this, and you'll also see them in plate configuration. I've reviewed and tested many of those here on the channel. Another way you'll see a level 3 oftentimes is in soft body armor inserts like this. These go on plate carriers, which we'll get to here in just a second, and can be inserted for extra protection on your side, giving you that side wraparound that those types of, generally speaking, law enforcement vests will give you. It gives you those with a little bit more overt carry as well. Now, one thing in terms of level 3 that you're going to see that kind of varies across the board is going to be, there's level 3, and then there's level 3 plus. Now, level 3 plus, as of right now, is not an official NIJ certification level, but what that is addressing this issue right here. It's 855. It also addresses 7N6 ammo. Those are the two most common types of ammo in America that you're going to run into that could penetrate level 3. So level 3, if you look up the NIJ broad category, it's going to say FMJ rounds fired from a rifle. So most of your rifle rounds, 308s, 30-06s, 7.62 by 54R, AK rounds, all of that stuff will be stopped by level 3, with the exception of ones that have steel or penetrator type properties. So they don't have to be an AP round per se, but if it has the type of properties and performs like it, it can penetrate level 3. 855, again, with the steel tip, and 7N6 with the steel insert there. Those are probably the most common ones here in America. There are others, of course, that could penetrate level 3. So level 3, one of the characteristics of them is they're super lightweight. So this is a RMA armament plate here from them. Obviously, it's a polyethylene plate. It's a little bit bigger than most, so it's about 1 inch thick, generally speaking, and it's going to be buoyant as well. So if I were to throw this in the lake, it would float. Tested it, you guys can see the videos. But it's really lightweight, so this is going to come in, generally speaking, 2.5 to 3 pounds. So for hard armor, that will stop a lot of rifle threats. That's hard to beat for the money. Now, there are hybrid plates like this one here. Again, it's 3 plus. I just tested one from Battle Steel as well the other day. If you guys watch the channel, this one here is from Tactical Scorpion Gear. And it's going to be a touch heavier, a touch thinner, but it's not going to give you level 4 protection. It's just going to stop those intermediate penetrating type rounds. Again, 855, 7N6 being the most common. And then we have steel plates. So this one here is a pretty basic level 3 here from Tactical Scorpion Gear. And then this one here is from Premier Body Armor. Again, both of these are level 3, but I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up. I'll jump cut in here so you guys can see that. There's a huge difference in terms of how thick they are. In terms of weight, there's not much of a difference. The Premier is a touch heavier, and it's because of that buildup layer on there. And what you're seeing there is the application of some sort of spall guard. So what this is, they vary. Some companies just use like a Line-X, a truck bed liner. Some companies have specifically developed formulas for that. But when a bullet goes through that and hits the steel plate, just like a steel target, they splatter out kind of like that. And this definitely is designed to keep that from going into your chin, into your arms, etc. if you're firing a gun, and keep you safe. If you take a bunch of rifle rounds with a steel plate, even in a carrier, if you take like 5 or 6 of them, you guys can see my videos on this, you can expect some spalling to start hitting you. Now, of course, the angle of the shot, how many rounds you took, how fast the round is going, the material the round is made out of, all of those sorts of things make a difference, but that is one of the downsides of steel armor. Another one of the downsides is that this is much heavier than some of the composites, but it is also much cheaper. You guys can see, if you guys follow me on Facebook as of right now anyway, sometimes you'll still see steel plates, even with a base coat, around 40 to 50 bucks. Whereas like a level 3 polyethylene plate like this one is gonna be a good bit more. Roughly speaking, $150 to $200 and up per plate. But this is gonna weigh 8 pounds, this is gonna weigh 3 pounds. Add 2 of those, that's 16 pounds versus 6 pounds. It's significant. It's a significant difference in weight. And I want to point out as well that when steel plates first came out, they had a real bad reputation because nobody was using any sort of spall guard at all. Most companies now will use like this Tactical Scorpion Gear has, which is like a base layer. This will prevent spall in a carrier, generally speaking, from a few pistol rounds that you take. Take a couple 9mm rounds to the plate, you'll be okay. Probably more than one rifle round, you're going to start seeing some spalling out of carrier, but it probably will stop the spall from one for what it's worth. Level 4 plates, These are rated to stop armor penetrating 30 caliber rounds. 30-06 black tip is the standard. And one thing I need to touch on, because I just thought about this, this is an old SAPI plate. So this is military issued SAPI plate. Now they have the eSAPIs, which are definitely better. But this plate here is a different cut than what you're gonna see out there on the market, generally speaking. I'm jumping down to sizing, kind of going all around. So SAPI cut is different than what you're going to see for the civilian. SAPI is a military standard, and this one here, as you guys can see, it says size large, strike base right there, is a little bit different cut than what you're going to see. This is a 10x2 plate here from AR500 Armor, and you can see it's slightly different there in terms of sizing. Now, most carriers have a little bit of give and a little bit of room for that because they realize that not all plate carrier companies or plate manufacturer companies make them the same. But just be aware of that going into it. Check with your carrier to make sure it's going to fit the plate that you order if you're ordering from 2 different companies. But this one right here is a level 4 plate from AR500 Armor. This is a pretty standard ceramic style plate, 10x2. We have the shooter's cut on there, and you guys have seen that on the other plates as well. What that's for, we got all the noise today. We got helicopters overhead as well. All right, so what that's for is when you're firing, if you're firing, especially shooting a rifle, you have a little bit of give there for your buttstock to get in your shoulder and give you the ability to get on the rifle as close as you could without armor in terms of comfort and cheek weld and consistency and those sorts of things. This one here, again, a traditional level 4 style armor is going to weigh anywhere from 6 to 8 pounds. So ones that are hybrids that are going to have ceramics in the front and then the polyethylene in the back in terms of level 4, and there are some out there, those are generally going to be closer to like the 5.5 to 6 pounds, and then the ones that are, again, like this RMA armament, that AR500 Armor, that are traditional in terms of their ceramic composition are going to weigh right around 8 pounds. So for 2 plates, that's 16 pounds. It's not insignificant. All right, so some other things to consider, guys, is how do you want to wear your armor? Discreet versus overt, right? So do you want to have a concealed carrier, or do you want to have like a plate carrier that everybody can see and they all know that you're wearing body armor? So that's up to you guys. Obviously, there's a lot of different discreet carriers out there. Most of them, particularly ones that are targeted towards law enforcement type folks, are going to use these type of cutouts. This is a medium. They make them large, XL, all different sizing that are standard really across the board for those types of inserts. However, if you want to use traditional inserts and have a covert carrier, something like this from AR500 is one that a lot of folks go with. It's relatively inexpensive. You could wear this over a shirt or over a jacket or whatever the case may be, but you could also wear this, particularly with some soft body armor, very easily under like a hooded sweatshirt, and no one would know that you were carrying it. So there is that. The downside of that is that there's not a lot of attachment points or anything like that. So if you want to start adding on magazines, etc., your options are a little bit limited there. But again, if people don't know you're wearing body armor, then they're more likely to try to shoot center mass. If they know you're wearing body armor, they might try to shoot around it. Now, most folks can't shoot anyway, so I'm not sure that really matters, but it is something to consider there. Additionally, there's other options besides those carriers. We're going to get into some more traditional style plate carriers as well. But something like this, which is an emergency carrier from AR500 Armor, I have a full test on it. Really like the concept. It's very quick to put on, you know, because you don't always have time and you don't know when an attack's coming. So if you were to slip that on, and if you have time, wrap this strap around, you're going to get pretty good frontal coverage. And most folks are going to be, you know, way better off with this. You can use either hard or soft armor, and it actually has a back piece as well, but that's just one option. There's a lot of different options out there. I got stuff all over my shirt from that one, but that's one to look at. Another one that a lot of folks are looking at these days is backpack type armor, again from AR500, just because that's what I have. This particular one has the armor actually sewn into the back, which is nice. It's a nice feature to have, but most folks are going to use a soft armor insert and slide it in there. Generally speaking, level 3A. And what's nice about those is that they're only going to weigh about a pound, pound and a half, so you're not going to break your kid's back, and they stop most threats. So let's talk about that as well before moving on. Most threats. What are most threats? In America, for non-military personnel, the most likely threat over 95% of the time that you're going to be shot with is a pistol round. So again, level 3 alpha is about the most you're going to need for almost all threats. It's very, very rare that you're going to get hit with a rifle round as a civilian in America. However, you have to do your own threat assessment. Everybody's different. If you want that rifle protection, well, then you got to step it up in terms of weight, cost, and bulk. There's no free lunch here, folks. All right, so in terms of plate carriers, We'll get into that here real quick. This is a pretty classic one here. This is a shellback tactical carrier, and it's been around for years and years and years. Now, I think there's probably some better designs out there today. However, I would say even today, this is a very viable carrier. You can see here it has the cut. This one here is cut for 11 by 14 plates. Again, just kind of make sure you check for that when going into it. We have some mag pouches out front, both pistol and rifle, so you could, in this particular setup, carry 3 mags of AR or AK, and then 3 double stack pistol rounds. And we have a cummerbund here. It's optional. You can remove this. So when you throw it on, I guess we'll do that for demonstration purposes. Hopefully it doesn't mess my microphone up too bad. All right, so the cummerbund can be removed, and you can use just these pieces here if you want to go with a minimalist type setup. And some carriers themselves won't come with a cummerbund, and you have to add that afterwards. So again, it just depends what you want. With this cummerbund here, it has built-in places that you can insert soft body armor. So this one has soft body armor in it. And these ones here are 6x4, I believe. And 6x4 and 4x4 are the most common types of inserts. If I haven't said it yet, everywhere that I can leave a link to this stuff below in the video description, I will. Just depends where you guys are watching this. But with your cummerbund, you want to adjust it so that way it's snug, but not like choking you. So the idea of body armor, of course, is that you want to be able to move with it, but you don't want to be so tight that you can't move freely and you can't breathe freely, but you don't want it so loose that when you go to cut, move, jump, whatever the case may be, it's flopping around on you and changing your center of balance. Obviously, you lose some athleticism like that, and it's suboptimal. Now, where should your plates sit? Let's talk about that. Generally speaking, right here at your sternal notch here is where you want the top of your plates. Now, there can be exceptions to that depending on different occupations, but for most people, that's how you want to set it up, and just roll with it. In terms of carriers, shoulder straps become really important if you're carrying stuff for a long time, or if you're wearing particularly level 3 armor. In this one right now, I have, level 4 armor, like ceramic, the 8-pounders, or the steel armor. This one here I have composite, so it's a little bit lighter weight. But if you're wearing this all day for a long time, it's not gonna be comfortable. Really, there is no comfortable body armor. It's just, there's some that's more comfortable than others. So there is that. Now, whether or not you want side protection or not, up to you guys. That said, I talked to any medics that have been around during the global war on terrorism. And what you'll hear from them is that outside of headshots and of course pelvic shots, one of the more common ones they see is entrance through the armpit. Just because guys coming up with rifles like this, even though some services may still teach put your plates in front, a lot of people just don't do that in reality, and they tend to do this, or depending on which side you're firing from, and that's just an exposed area. So having that extra armor there on the bottom is nice. Take this one off real quick. And there's others out there as well. Again, just different brands. This AR500 armor. Again, these are their budget ones, the Testudo and their Veritas. For the money, guys, I don't know that they can really be beat. The good shoulder padding, they have good ventilation. Side pouches here on the cummerbund. If you want to add your side body armor, you can do so. Really lots of molly places to attach stuff. It's hard to beat these for the money. Again, they're excellent in that regard. You can hang stuff all you want, but you got to remember, guys, if you're carrying this stuff around all day, it can be pretty darn annoying. Some of the other ways you can attach side armor is if you have armor, perfect. If you have something like this here that has a cummerbund, this one actually has molly webbing. I didn't think it did when I first saw it and grabbed it. But if it doesn't have it, you can just add it with these types of inserts here. You stick your 4x4 armor in there, then you put it on there and strap it down and you're good to go. But this one right here is a newer offering that you're seeing from companies like Cry, AR500. It's laser cut, very lean, very sleek, very lightweight. This one here, I have 2 level 3 MPWE, whatever, polyethylene plates in there. And with the carrier and the 2 plates from AR500 armor, this thing weighs 7.1 ounce, 7 pounds 1 ounces. So super lightweight. And if you're carrying this stuff around all day, like I've already said a bunch of times, it makes a huge, huge difference. Now, again, like I talked about earlier, you have to assess what the threat is that you want to face and then decide on your armor purchases from there. The debate between armor and mobility has been going on since, Sun Tzu was around, and probably before that. everybody wants, you know, like a lot of questions I've been getting is like, hey, I'm, you know, 6'4", and what size plate should I get? Could I get a 10 by 12? Could I get an 11 by 14? And the answer to that is yes. You can get both. Both will work just fine. And it just depends how much coverage you want, how much weight you're willing to accept, what you're willing to pay for it, and all of those sorts of factors. How comfortable you are wearing it, maneuvering weapons and stuff like that in a larger armor size. So there's no free lunch. It's just, it doesn't work that way. You guys just have to make the call on that one for yourself. Price point, I've kind of already hit on it, but right now in 2019, armor is cheaper than it's ever been, ever. It's not even close. So you can get high quality armor at prices that were really unfathomable even 10 years ago. So all of the ones we've shown here today are actually pretty affordable armor options. There's nothing out here that I had that was really expensive. There are some expensive ones out there. That said, generally speaking, I don't see a huge difference in terms of paying for different types of armor as long as it has the same rating. Now let's talk about rating. So NIJ rating, to actually get an NIJ rating, you have to send your armor plate in, the company does, and they have to have it certified, and they have to pay for the NIJ to do that. Now, depending on the actual piece of armor being tested, I've heard reports from armor companies that that costs between $20,000 and $35,000. And if you were to have two different products, so for instance, like this RMA plate and this RMA plate level 4, level 3, you have to pay for each. So it's $25,000 to $35,000 for each item in each SKU. So, and that includes, like, if you go 10 to 12 to 11 to 14, they're different. You have to pay the price both ways if you are an armor company. So what you'll see out there is these companies will say it's rated for threats up to whatever, or tested for threats up to whatever. If you see that 99 times out of 100, it's not actually an NIJ tested product. They have not actually paid the money to send it into the NIJ to formally test it via their procedures, which are very, very specific. However, what that means is they've probably gone out in a field like I do and shot it to those standards and actually see if it works. And that's how the company that's selling it is certifying it to that. But just be aware of that. That's something you guys have to decide if you're okay with either way. If you guys are like a police department representative or a military unit representative, I would probably lean NIJ for that round, just because of liability and all of those sorts of things. But just be aware of that. Right now, again, 2019, we're seeing a lot of Chinese plates coming in from like Alibaba and stuff like that into America. Now, some of these plates, no, I actually don't have one out here. Some of the plates that you'll see being sold here in America will be assembled in America, but from Chinese components. And the most common one that you'll see out there is the polyethylene. And that's not per se bad. Some of those work perfectly well, and there's no issues with them, but some of them have horrible quality control when they're actually assembling them. And the ones that are actually assembled in China, I would be very leery of. I tested a few here on the channel, and what you'll find is the Chinese, although theoretically communists, are capitalists and they cut corners, right? So whereas on this plate here, it's a level 3 polyethylene plate, I can feel right on the edge there, on the edge, there's polyethylene. It's right there. I can feel it. So that way you're getting true 10 by 12 coverage. Whereas a lot of the Chinese plates, what they'll do is they'll stick padding on the sides, and about an inch all the way around will just be padding, and then the polyethylene will be in the middle. So instead of getting a 10 by 12 in terms of coverage, you're getting like a 9 by 11. So just be aware of that. I'm sure there's more reputable brands than others. Again, just verify, do your research, all of those sorts of things. Let me think if there's other things I didn't cover here. The M855 just reminded me, let's talk about level 3. So just like I talked about earlier, the level 3, the UHMPWE types and polyethylene types, that's the same thing if I didn't already say that. Those types of armor have a hard time with 855 as well as 7N6. The steel level 3 armor that you see, almost all of it, really there's one exception I know of, it's going to have a hard time with really high velocity. So the most common one here that you're going to see in America is M193 55 grain 5.56 coming out of a 20-inch barrel at home defense type distances. So while this one will probably stop, this is the level 3 plate steel, this one will probably stop 8.55 just fine. M193 out of a 20-inch barrel will zip right through it. So just be aware of that difference there in terms of the level 3 ratings and materials. They are different in that regard. So, and I think the last thing I'm going to go over is this one here. These are trauma pads. People always ask, should you have trauma pads? The answer is, I don't know. It depends. Trauma pads are not ballistic rated in any way. They're generally speaking made of foam, some high density foam. It just depends on the manufacturer that puts them out. However, what these do is when a plate gets hit, particularly some of the level 3 polyethylene plates, and then like the level 3 alpha, level 2, etc. These types of plates, you'll see back face deformation, meaning the back face of the plate will actually cave into the body. Obviously, that's not going to feel good. It can cause some damage in terms of internal organs as well, just depending. Generally speaking, with pistol rounds, it's not going to do anything, and it's just going to hurt and you're going to bruise up. However, with rifle rounds, getting stopped there, it can do some damage, maybe break a rib or two. These are designed to mitigate that. Do I recommend them? Totally up to you. Depends on your bulk and what you're willing to take. I do not wear them in any of my personal carriers that I have set up for serious use, but some folks really like them. So just throwing that out there. They're inexpensive. If you like the idea of it, feel free, have at it. But that's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully we addressed whatever concerns you had about body armor. You have a better idea of which type you want to go with depending on your budget, how much weight you're willing to accept, what kind of penetration you're willing to stop or wanting to stop, and just how long you're willing to carry that crap around, because trust me, it gets hot, and it gets hot fast. So that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully it cleared some stuff up and everybody learned something, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the next video.